was an actual video coming out of the Trump White House to promote the war, to dehumanize not just the enemy, but to make it all look like a video game with no real-world consequences. This was posted to Twitter from the White House with the caption, "Undefeated." Video game. There are no real-world consequences, according to that video. But for Trump, if someone put this in a movie, if somebody put that promotional video for the war in Iran, if somebody put that in a movie about a dystopian American future, perhaps a remake of Wag the Dog, there's no question the studio executives would say it's too obvious, too on the nose, not believable. And yet, here we are. Here we are, a president who sat out the Vietnam War. He's got a draft-age son who shows no interest in fighting his father's war. We have a president, a White House, a military trivializing war, celebrating the killing of faceless enemies. As I reported on the previous show, the director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, presented Trump with a memo before he launched this war, telling him what I've been telling my audience for years, and that is, unless you're willing to commit ground troops, hundreds of thousands of ground troops to go into Iran, you're not going to topple that regime by bombing it. And now, after 2 weeks of bombing, after killing the Ayatollah, Reuters reporting the latest U.S. intelligence estimate concludes the Iranian government isn't even close to collapsing. The report says the bombing campaign has not resulted in defections or divisions within the military. We're not seeing a groundswell of citizens using this as an opportunity to rise up and seize control. The United States has hit 6,000 targets inside Iran so far. That doesn't count the Israeli airstrikes. Reuters reporting an unnamed Israeli military official telling them that there's no hint or suggestion that any of this will result in a new Iranian government. But the Trump White House knew this before going in. Trump and Hegseth right now are in the business of selling this war like a used car that they want us, the American taxpayer, to drive off the lot in. They know it's a lemon. They want us to buy this lemon, drive away, and then they plan to move on so that there's nobody to bring the car back to when we realize we've been sold a heap of junk. There was a moment during a press briefing earlier in the week where Pete Hegseth literally claimed the Strait of Hormuz was open. He said it's open for business. He said oil tankers are free to sail right through. He said the only problem is Iran will fire missiles at those tankers. And some people began to laugh, but he was dead serious. He insisted the strait is open for business. Meanwhile, thousands of tankers are stranded, no ships are going through, and it's costing them a fortune to get insurance. Because even if those ships are just sitting outside the Strait of Hormuz, if they're not moving, they're sitting ducks. Iran is attacking energy infrastructure. So now these tankers are impossible to insure. Trump said, we won. Not we're winning, He said, we won. And then he said, I won't even call it a war. He said, for us, it's an excursion. He said, sometimes it's a war, but mostly it's an excursion. He said, for the Iranians, it's a war, but for America, it's an excursion. So 13 American soldiers have died so far on an excursion. Very respectful. Nice. Well, if it's just an excursion for America, but it's war for Iran, who do you think is going to be the tougher opponent? The country that says it's just an excursion, we can leave anytime we want, or the country that sees this war as an existential moment where their very survival is at stake? Who do you think is going to do whatever it takes to win? If you don't know the answer, ask a Vietnam or an Iraqi war vet. Karl von Clausewitz, the Prussian general, famously said war is merely the continuation of policy by other means. What he said is war is politics. He said war is the failure of politics. He said you can't separate politics from war. That's right, you cannot separate politics from war. Despite every U.S. president who gets us into a war, they always insist, I refuse to politicize this war, as though politics is dirtier than war. I will not sully this war by bringing the democratic process into this. War is politics, and the American people, politically speaking, don't like this war.